I didn't think much of it the first time she said my name differently. Not wrong, just slower. Like she was trying it out. Stay a minute, Ian. It was one of those afternoons where the house felt too quiet even with the windows open. The fan clicked every few seconds, like it had something to say but couldn't get it out. I'd come over to return a charger, her son's, technically, but he wasn't home. He rarely was. So it was just me and her. I stood near the doorway longer than necessary, one hand still on the strap of my bag. I think I said something like, "Yeah, I was just heading out," but I didn't move. She noticed. She always noticed small things like that. "Tea?" she asked, already halfway to the kitchen. It didn't feel like a question. I nodded anyway. Her house always smelled faintly of something warm. Soap or cardamom or maybe just thyme. It wasn't messy, but it wasn't arranged either. Like things had settled where they wanted to stay. There were 2 cups already drying on the rack, and I caught myself wondering who the other one had been for. I sat at the table and picked at the corner of a napkin, folding it once, then again, until it started to tear. I don't know why I do that. I just need something for my hands when my head gets too loud. "You've been busy?" she asked from the kitchen. "Not really." A pause. Then, that didn't sound convincing. I smiled, but she couldn't see it. "I mean classes. Stuff." "Stuff," she repeated, like it was a real answer. She brought the tea over and placed it in front of me, her fingers brushing the rim of the cup before letting go. I noticed that. I don't know why I noticed that either. "Your mom's still calling every day?" she asked. "Every other," I said. I let some go. She nodded, like she understood more than I said. She usually did that, filled in the blanks without making it obvious. We sat there for a bit, just the sound of spoons against ceramic and the fan clicking in the background. I glanced at my phone out of habit. No messages. There was one I hadn't sent, though. Still sitting there. Just a "you around," to someone I already knew wouldn't reply. I locked the screen again. "You always check it like something's about to happen," she said, not looking at me. I let out a small breath. "Maybe something is." She looked up then, just for a second. Not long enough to mean anything. Or maybe too long. "You're too young to wait like that," she said. I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't. Instead, I took a sip of the tea. It was hotter than I expected. I tried not to react, but she caught it anyway. "You never wait for it to cool," she said, almost to herself. There was a faint smile on her face. Not amused. Just familiar. "I guess I don't," I said. Another pause. This one felt different. Heavier, but not uncomfortable. Just something sitting between us, neither of us naming it. I noticed her hands resting on the table, fingers slightly curled, like she was about to say something and then decided not to. I looked away first. "I should go," I said, even though I hadn't moved yet. She didn't stop me. Didn't walk me to the door like she sometimes did. Just stayed seated, watching the tea settle in my cup. I picked up my bag, adjusted the strap, then paused. "Tell him I dropped it off," I said. "I will." I stepped out into the hallway, the door closing softer than usual behind me. Halfway down the stairs, my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. But I didn't. It was from her. "You forgot your charger." I stopped walking. Then another message came, before I could reply. Or maybe you didn't. I didn't go back right away. I stood there in the stairwell, reading her message again like it might change if I waited long enough. Or maybe you didn't. It felt like a joke. Probably was. But it didn't sit like one. I typed "I'll grab it later," then deleted it. Typed "keep it," deleted that too. In the end, I just locked my phone and went downstairs, like distance might make it smaller. It didn't. I came back the next evening. Not because I needed the charger. I had 2 more in my room, tangled somewhere under my desk. But I still knocked like I didn't. She opened the door almost immediately, like she'd been nearby. Not waiting, just not far. "You came," she said, then added, softer, "for the charger." "Yeah," I said. I figured I should. She stepped aside to let me in. Same smell. Same quiet. But something about it felt different, like the air had shifted slightly overnight. "It's in the kitchen," she said. I followed her in, watching the way she tied her hair back loosely as she walked. A few strands fell out anyway. She didn't fix them. "You always leave things behind?" she asked, handing me the charger. "Not usually. But sometimes." I shrugged. "Depends where I am." She gave a small nod, like that answer made sense to her. There was already tea on the counter. 2 cups this time, not drying, waiting. You don't have to. I started. I know, she said, pouring anyway. We sat again. Same table. Same fan ticking above us. But it didn't feel like the same moment. You don't talk much about your family, she said after a while. I looked at the cup in my hands. There's not much to say. That's never true, she said gently. I exhaled through my nose. They're fine. Just not really around, I guess. Even when they are. She didn't interrupt. Just watched, not pushing. My dad travels. My mom calls, but it's mostly about small things. Bills, neighbors, what I ate. I paused, then added, she doesn't ask how I am. Not really. The words felt strange once they were out, like I hadn't meant to say them out loud. She nodded slowly. Some people don't know how to ask that question, or don't want to hear the answer. Maybe, she said. A quiet settled between us. Not empty, just full of things neither of us were picking up. What about you? I asked before I could stop myself. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes this time. What about me? You're alone a lot. The second I said it, I wished I hadn't. It sounded too direct, too observant. But she didn't seem offended, just thoughtful. Not always, she said. Then, after a pause, just more than I expected to be. I didn't ask about her husband. I didn't ask where he was. But I knew enough. Everyone in the building did, in that quiet, respectful way people know things without saying them. Her son, my friend, never talked about it either. He used to hate this table, she said suddenly, running her fingers along the edge. Said it made the room feel smaller. Does it? She looked at me then. Only when there's too much space on the other side. I didn't fully understand what she meant, but I felt it. I glanced at my phone again. Still nothing. Same empty screen. Same unsent message sitting somewhere behind it. You can stop checking, she said softly. I looked up. What? That person, she said, not unkindly. They're not going to text tonight. I let out a small laugh, more breath than sound. A book I thought her son might like. A question about the Wi-Fi. Once, just to return a spoon I didn't remember taking. She never called it out. Just opened the door like it made sense. A few days later, I ran into him. Her son. He was leaning against the gate downstairs, scrolling through his phone, one earbud in. He looked up when I got close. You've been around, he said. It wasn't accusatory. Not really. Yeah, I replied. Just dropping by sometimes. He nodded, slow. She mentioned something about the way he said she made me shift my weight slightly. She gets quiet when I'm not home, he added, like he was explaining something I hadn't asked. I didn't know what to do with that. Yeah, I said again. I guess. He studied me for a second longer than usual, then shrugged it off. Come over later, he said. I'll be there tonight. Maybe, I replied. But I already knew I wouldn't. That evening, I still found myself outside her door. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at the wood like it might give me a reason to leave. Then I knocked. She opened it slower this time. Oh, she said, a little surprised. I didn't think. Your son said he'd be home. I cut in. He will, she said. Later. A pause. You can come in, if you want. I hesitated, then stepped inside. Something felt different. Not wrong. Just noticed. Like we were both suddenly aware of the shape of things. I made tea, she said, but didn't move toward the kitchen right away. I nodded, setting my bag down carefully this time. Not forgetting anything. Not leaving anything behind. We sat, but not as easily. The space between us felt measured. You talked to him, she asked. Yeah. And? I shrugged. Nothing. She studied my face, like she didn't believe that. He notices things, she said quietly. I know. Another pause. I watched her hands again. They weren't resting this time. They were folded together, fingers pressing slightly into each other like she was holding something in place. We should probably, she started, then stopped. Probably what? She shook her head lightly. Nothing. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling. You've been saying nothing a lot. And you've been coming here a lot, she replied, just as soft. That landed somewhere. Not harsh. Just accurate. I can stop, I said too quickly. I didn't say that. But you meant it. She looked at me then, properly. No half glances. No looking away. I don't know what I meant, she admitted. Silence again. Louder this time. The fan clicked overhead. Once. Twice. I just don't wanna, she started, then paused. What? She exhaled, eyes dropping briefly to the table. Confuse something that shouldn't be confusing. I felt that in my chest. Tight. Familiar. Maybe it already is, I said. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she reached for her cup, but didn't drink. Just held it, like it gave her something to do. I watched her thumb trace the rim slowly. Once. Then again. You're his friend, she said finally. I know. And she stopped. I waited. She didn't finish it. Didn't need to. The door didn't open. No interruption. No sudden noise. Just us. Which somehow made it worse. Or clearer. I'm not sure. I don't remember who moved first. Maybe neither of us did. Maybe it was just the way the space shifted when I leaned forward slightly. Or how she didn't move back. Our eyes met, closer this time. Too close to pretend it wasn't something. Her breath caught. Just a little. Mine probably did too. There was a second, just one, where it felt like everything had already happened. Like we'd already crossed it. And we're just catching up to the moment. She didn't say stop. But she didn't move closer either. Just stayed there. Waiting. Or deciding. Or both. And then, a sound in the hallway. Footsteps. Close. We both pulled back at the same time. Too fast. Like it burned. Neither of us spoke. Not even when the footsteps passed. Not even when the silence came back. Just sat there. Like something had almost been said. And now couldn't be. After that night, things didn't go back. They just adjusted. Quieter. More careful. Like we were both trying not to step on something fragile we couldn't see. I stopped coming by as often. Not completely. Just enough to make it look unintentional. Sometimes I'd hear her door open when I was halfway down the hall. Not calling out. Just there. Like she'd stepped out for air and found me instead. We'd exchange small things. Heading out. Yeah. Okay. And that would be it. A week passed like that. Maybe more. I started staying out longer than usual. Sitting in places I didn't like, just to avoid going back too early. My phone stayed quiet most nights. I still checked it anyway. Out of habit. Out of hope. I don't know. Then one evening, I saw her outside. Not at the door. Not in the hallway. Further down the street, near the small park that no one really used. Just a bench, a flickering streetlight, and a tree that leaned too far to one side. She was sitting there alone. I almost kept walking. But I didn't. You come here? I asked, stopping a few feet away. She looked up, like she hadn't expected to be seen. Sometimes, she said. I nodded, then sat down on the other end of the bench. Not too close. Not far either. For a while, we just listened to the sounds of the street. Distant cars. A dog barking somewhere. Leaves shifting softly. You've been avoiding me, she said. It wasn't sharp. Just said. I've been busy. She gave a small breath that might have been a laugh. You're not good at that. At what? Pretending things aren't obvious. I looked down at my hands, resting between my knees. Neither are you, I said. That sat between us for a second. Then she shifted slightly, turning just enough to face me more. I thought giving it space would make it go away, she said. Did it? She shook her head, almost smiling. No. A pause. I didn't want to be the kind of person who, she stopped, searching for it. Who what? I asked. Who needs this? She said finally. Whatever this is. Her voice didn't break. It just lowered. I swallowed. Maybe it's not about needing. Then what is it about? I didn't have an answer ready. Just something half-formed. Maybe it's just being around someone who doesn't feel like noise. She looked at me then. Really looked. You don't feel like noise either, she said. Something in my chest tightened. Not painfully. Just aware. We sat with that. The streetlight flickered again, then steadied. I saw you with someone, she said after a while. I frowned. When? A few days ago. Outside the store. Oh, I said. That was nothing. She hesitated, then shook her head. It doesn't matter. It does if you brought it up. She exhaled slowly, eyes drifting toward the road. I didn't like it, she admitted. The honesty of it landed heavier than I expected. Why? I asked, even though I knew. She didn't answer right away. Her fingers moved slightly against the bench, like she was tracing something invisible. I don't know what I'm allowed to feel here, she said quietly. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. Maybe you don't have to decide that yet. And then what? She asked. We just keep sitting on benches and pretending this isn't going somewhere. I didn't respond. Because it was. We both knew it was. The space between us felt smaller now. Not physically, just less safe. She turned toward me fully this time, close enough that I could see the way her expression shifted before she spoke. I shouldn't be here with you like this, she said. Then why are you? A long pause. Too long to ignore. Because I don't feel alone when I am, she said. That did something to me. Something I couldn't step back from. I shifted slightly closer without meaning to. Or maybe I meant to. I don't know anymore. Her breath caught again, just like before. But this time, neither of us pulled away. Not immediately. Not yet. Her hand moved, just a little, resting closer to mine on the bench. Not touching. Almost. I looked at it. Then at her. You're going to regret this, she said softly. Maybe, I replied. Another pause. The kind that asks something without words. She didn't move her hand away. I didn't either. And somewhere in that silence, something waited to be chosen. Or stopped. Or crossed. I don't think either of us knew which one we were about to do. The next day, she didn't open the door. Not right away. Not after the second knock either. I stood there longer than I should have, listening for movement inside. A cup placed down. A chair shifting. Something. Nothing came. So I left. After that, something shifted. Not gradually. Not subtly. Just gone. I stopped seeing her in the hallway. Her door stayed closed more often than not. The faint light that used to slip through the bottom at night disappeared. Even the small things, the sound of dishes, the quiet hum of the TV, felt like they'd been turned down or moved somewhere else entirely. I told myself she was busy, or tired, or just deciding something. Her son came by one evening, knocked on my door like it was normal. You okay? He asked, leaning against the frame like he had all the time in the world. Yeah, I said. Why? He shrugged. You've been quiet. So have you. He gave a small smile at that. Fair. There was a pause. Then, she's been off. I felt that, even though I tried not to show it. How? I don't know, he said. Just not around much. Keeps going out. Doesn't really say where. I nodded slowly, like that didn't matter. Like I hadn't noticed the same thing in a different way. She does that sometimes, he added. When things get too much. I didn't ask what things meant. I didn't want to know. Or maybe I did. Just not from him. A few more days passed. No messages. No accidental run-ins. Nothing. I typed something once. Late at night, sitting on the edge of my bed, phone in hand. Are you okay? I stared at it for a while. Then added, did I do something? Deleted that part. Rewrote it. Deleted it again. In the end, I didn't send anything. Just locked the screen and set the phone down like it had said enough on its own. I started going back to the park. Not every day, just when I didn't know where else to go. The bench was usually empty. Once, there was a couple sitting there, close enough that their shoulders touched without thinking. I looked away too quickly, like I wasn't supposed to see that. Like it belonged to someone else. Then one evening, I saw her again. Not at the bench. Across the street. Standing outside a small clinic I'd never noticed before. She wasn't alone. There was a man with her. Older. Not by much, but enough. They stood close, not touching, but with that kind of familiarity that doesn't need to. He said something. She smiled. Not the same smile. Quieter. More practiced. I stayed where I was. Didn't call out. Didn't move closer. Just watched as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the same way she always did, and nodded at something he said. Then they walked off together. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just easy. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough for the street light to flicker on. Long enough for it to feel like I'd imagined the whole thing. That night, I passed by her door again. Didn't knock. Just stood there for a second, listening to the silence behind it. It felt different now. Not empty. Just closed. Back in my room, I picked up my phone again. Opened our chat. Scrolled up. There wasn't much there. Just small things. Short lines. Nothing that explained anything. I typed again. I saw you today. Paused. Then added, you looked. I didn't finish it. Didn't know how. Happy. Fine. Like none of this had ever happened. None of it felt right. I erased the whole thing, set the phone down, and just sat there, staring at nothing in particular. I didn't feel heartbroken. That would have been easier to understand. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence, and I was still waiting to hear how it ended. It was late when I heard the knock. Not loud, just enough to make me think I imagined it. I waited a second. Then it came again. When I opened the door, she was standing there like she wasn't sure she should be. Same loose hair, same quiet presence. But something about her looked tired. Not physically, just like she'd been carrying something for too long. "Hi," she said. "Hi." We stood there for a moment, neither of us moving. "I didn't wake you, did I?" she asked. "No." A pause. Then, "Can I?" "Yeah," I said, stepping aside before she finished. She walked in slowly, looking around like she hadn't been there before, or like she was noticing things she hadn't needed to notice before. My room wasn't much. A chair with clothes on it. A desk that stayed messy no matter how many times I cleared it. She glanced at the desk, then at me. "You still leave things unfinished," she said. I let out a small breath. "Yeah." Another pause. "I saw you," I said. She nodded, like she expected that. I figured. Neither of us said where. We didn't need to. She sat down on the edge of the chair, moving a shirt aside without asking. I stayed standing for a second, then leaned against the desk. "That was my husband," she said. The word landed differently than I expected. "Was?" I asked. She nodded. "We're not together. Haven't been for a while." I didn't respond right away. "I go there sometimes," she added. "The clinic. He works there. We talk." "About what?" "Things we didn't finish," she said. "Or try to." I looked down at my hands, then back at her. "And does it work?" She gave a small shrug. "Some days." Silence filled the room again. Not heavy, just honest. I thought if I stayed away, it would. She stopped. "Make it easier." I finished. She looked at me. "Did it?" I shook my head. "Me neither," she said. She rested her hands in her lap this time, fingers loosely intertwined. Not tense, just holding something together. "I didn't expect this," she said quietly. "Me neither." "You're—" She paused, then shook her head slightly. "This isn't something I should be feeling." I offered. She let out a soft breath. "Yes." I nodded. "I know." Another pause. Longer, but not empty. "I kept thinking about that night," I said. "The bench." "Yeah." She smiled faintly. "Me too." I stopped. "Me too," she said again, a little softer this time. We both looked away for a second, then back. "I don't want to be something you regret," I said. "You wouldn't be," she replied, almost immediately. "But I might regret the timing," she added. "The situation. Myself, maybe." That felt honest in a way nothing else had. "And me?" I asked. She held my gaze. "No," she said. The room felt smaller now. Or maybe just clearer. No pretending left. No space to hide in. "I don't know what this is supposed to be," I admitted. "It doesn't have to be something," she said. "Then why does it feel like it is?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood up slowly, stepping closer, but not too close. "Just enough. Because we didn't stop it when we should have," she said. "Do you want to stop it now?" There it was. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just there. She looked at me for a long second, then shook her head, just slightly. "No," she said. The word didn't feel reckless. It felt chosen. I stepped forward without thinking too much about it. Close enough to see the way her expression softened. Close enough to feel the space between us change. But I didn't touch her. Not yet. Neither did she. We just stood there, looking at each other like we were both trying to remember this version of things. Before it changed again. "Okay," I said quietly. She nodded. "Okay," she repeated. And somehow, that felt like the most honest thing either of us had said. It didn't change overnight. Nothing about us did. We didn't suddenly start spending every day together. There were no long messages, no late-night calls that stretched into morning. No declarations. Just small adjustments. I stopped waiting outside her door, and she started knocking on mine. Not every day, just enough that it felt like something we both understood without planning. Mornings became quieter in a different way. Sometimes, around the same time, 8:47, give or take, I'd hear her in the kitchen across the hall. The soft clink of a cup, the kettle just before it boiled. Once, I opened my door without thinking. She was already there, standing in the hallway with 2 cups. "You're predictable," she said. "You came prepared," I replied. She handed me one. "Don't let it cool," she added. I looked at her for a second, then took a careful sip. She noticed. "You waited," she said. "Not this time," I answered. That earned a small smile. We never went back to the bench right away. Not after that night. It stayed where it was, under the flickering streetlight, slightly uneven, like it had been left mid-thought. But a few weeks later, we found ourselves there again. Not planned. Just walking in the same direction long enough. She sat first this time. I joined her, a little closer than before. Not enough to draw attention. Just enough that it felt different. "Your friend asked about you," she said after a while. I glanced over. "What did you say?" "That you've been around." I nodded. "Fair." A pause. "He notices less than you think," she added. "Still more than I'd like," I said. She smiled faintly. "That's usually how it works." The streetlight flickered once, then steadied. "Same as before." "I went back to the clinic," she said. I didn't react right away. Just listened. And she exhaled slowly. "We talked. Properly this time." I nodded, letting her take her time. "It felt finished," she said. "Not relieved. Not heavy. Just done." I looked at my hands for a second, then back at her. "Okay," I said. She glanced at me, something softer in her expression. "That's it?" she asked. "What else should I say?" She shook her head slightly. "Nothing. That was enough." We sat there for a while after that. No need to fill the space. No need to explain what came next. It was already happening, quietly. Things didn't become perfect. We still hesitated sometimes. Still paused before saying certain things. Still carried parts of ourselves that didn't fully fit into this. But it felt steadier. Like something we were choosing, not falling into. One evening, back in her kitchen, she handed me a cup without asking. I took it, leaning against the counter this time instead of sitting. "You still check your phone like something's about to happen," she said. I glanced down at it in my hand, then set it aside. "Not as much," I replied. She watched me for a second, then nodded. Later, as I was leaving, I paused at the door. Same way I used to. Hand on the frame. Bag half on my shoulder. She noticed. "You forgot something," she asked. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I think I didn't." She held my gaze for a second longer than usual, then gave a small, almost unnoticeable nod. I stepped out into the hallway. It felt the same, and not the same at all. Some things never got said. We didn't label it. Didn't try to explain it to anyone else. But it stayed. In the way she said my name now, still slow, but certain. In the way I stopped folding napkins just to keep my hands busy. In the way silence between us didn't feel like something to escape anymore. And sometimes, in the quiet moments, with tea cooling between us, or footsteps echoing down the hall, it felt like we had finally reached the part life had paused on. Not rushed. Not missed. Just continued. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?